Interesting.
Well, it's currency time.
I'm going to just answer this because it's a fairly easy thing to answer. How can a local volunteer for next year? The same way anybody, a non-local volunteers the same way. Is it volunteers at desertbus.org?
No, there's actually a form on
There's
the
a form
website.
now, yes.
Yeah, it's closed at the moment.
Yeah,
but-
so you want to watch the website. We don't have a specific time when it opens, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
But you might check February, March.
My advice is between March and May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact is we have a lot of very great volunteers. You guys do an excellent job. But there's always time for, there'll always be like some time for new people to show up and do things as well. And you got to consider it like you're applying for a job, and that sounds awful because you're applying for a job where you don't get paid, but it is you do get a chance to come help out. And I think there are interviews, there are shortlisting, and you should never, ever, ever take it personally.
Yep.
But what you're trying to do is you're trying to put yourself out there as a person who's like, this is who I am, this is what I do, these are some things that I know. It is very rare for anyone to ever get just plucked out of something and be like, cool, now you're doing this amazing thing. Everyone who comes in to do this, you're not here to... It's not a showcase for your talents.
Yeah.
It is work to be here.
Yeah, and it's not terribly glamorous.
Nope.
A lot of the time it isn't,
But
yeah.
I like to think that we're reasonably nice to our volunteers.
Yeah?
You are.
Yeah. But you should never ever have expectations that it's like, I'm going to show up, I'm going to get to sing a song, I'm going to wow everybody, and then they're going to I'm going to be best friends with everybody.
And everyone's going to carry me around on their shoulders,
Yeah.
and then that's how I'll launch my Twitch career.
Yeah. It's like that isn't kind of what goes on here. I mean, hell, I come in, I do 6 hours of this, then I get to go home and sleep during the day when I should be awake.
Yeah.
And then after the whole week is done, I get to flip that back. That's not terribly glamorous, It is work for everybody involved, and we appreciate everybody, all of our volunteers. You guys do a great job, and all of you in engineering, you do a lot of work. Like this is the part where I'm actually being sincere, as opposed to earlier in the night when I was. But the fact that like Johnny and most of the engineering crew, they show up a week before we get access to the venue. Like James has to do a whole bunch of work to find us a venue, and then he finds us a venue, and then engineering has to come in and they work for a week straight just trying to get everything set up to work.
Right.
And that's time off of work for a lot of people. I think Johnny is here thanks to VIU being so kind to him.
They are really nice to me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I came the Friday before we started. Well, actually, I came the Thursday before because we had to set up the network early. But yeah.
Yeah. We have to tear most of the equipment out of Studio C at the moon base. We have to take apart like a lot of our stuff. We almost couldn't record an episode of Sidewalk Slam because we were missing so much equipment.
Right.
Yeah. So we had to like scrounge stuff together so we could make it work. But that's because it's like we're trying to get everything here so we can get it all set up because we only have so much time to get running. And no matter what happens, the bus runs. The bus runs when we say it runs, and it runs. So everyone works, does their part. I didn't do as much this year, but everyone does their part to try to make this thing happen. And then when we're done, everyone's got to tear all this place down. And it's amazing how fast you can tear down because we have so many people who can just kick in and help. So. Yeah.
When you have a team of 60 people, it makes light work for a lot of people.
And we lean on that a little bit at Loading Ready Run to help get everything back to the moon base and then back together so we can start streaming again and doing everything else that we do.
We're going to be in here nice and early on Friday to tear it all down and try to get it all back to the moon base or into Johnny's car, as the case may be. Or
We'll rent another van and we'll make this happen.
Yep.
Yeah. And for the folks who would like to apply to be a volunteer, like I said, I'd recommend March, May, and treat it like you're applying for a job. And I know several people who have put in a volunteer form. They're like, well, what could I don't know what I could possibly put in a form. You would be surprised how much of your regular experience really matters. Think about what you're applying for. Site volunteer, communications. Put in there as much experience as you can. If you worked, and now my words fail me.
It's definitely like nobody gets to really pick their team in a lot of cases either, right? Like you might just end up applying for a general volunteers position, and then through seeing your experience and that kind of thing, it's very different. It's different than like a normal applying for a specialized job in a lot of ways. And yeah, you might just end up working. You might end up working a general job as a site volunteer, or you might end up working like in the comms office or something. You could get pulled into work on the engineering area. You don't really always know where you're going to end up or where people are going to need you. And the fact is like every job is important. Like before we had site volunteers to help with a lot of like moving food around and making sure that the place is maintained so we can all use it together. And that's not like we say every year, it's not to say that the site volunteers are supposed to be slaves or anything, because they're not. We're supposed to all be working together to make this happen. But it's like having people maintain the site, making sure that people can get in and out of the venue and like all those kind of things. It's like the bus doesn't run without site volunteers. Yeah. It can't. We need them too much.
Yeah.
So it's like if you know anything about regular cleaning, if you know anything about food safety, mention it.
Yeah. Well, like having 60 people in here, we need site volunteers, because like 60 people, just body heat alone causes enough entropy that the place is a disaster, right? Say nothing of like at mealtime.
Oh yeah, mealtime things get a little hectic. Heck, you've probably heard a lot of us banging around during certain points of the show as we're trying to get the meals ready and warmed up and all. But I mean, even at some inopportune, at various moments, like when sound was cut off for a little while, you saw Brett come in here and do a bunch of vacuuming real fast. Several of us were also like banging pots or whatever, quote unquote, trying to get things clean and moved quickly while everything was muted. Yep. Sometimes you need a bunch of people who can just jump to it right then and there.
I'm curious.